This is ScreenView with Peter Van, Amy Morgan, and John Denny. Fan us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at ScreenView Show, and join in on the conversation on Google+.
And hello, welcome to ScreenView, episode 28, June 26, 2012. I'm Peter Van. With me I have John and Amy. And how are you guys doing this week?
I'm here. That's a good thing.
I'm good. It's a good week.
I'm still waking up. I just got up from a nap.
I can't take naps.
Little kids running around. See? Yeah.
Wish I could take naps, but it doesn't work out for me.
Boo-hoo.
Yeah, I know. Anyway.
Box office report.
Let's go start off right with the box office. Number one, unsurprisingly, was Brave with $66 million. Surprisingly enough, this is actually the this continues the record of all Pixar films since '95. Their first mass release with Toy Story, made it to open at number one in the box office. So good times. Yeah. Huh.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like a lot of them are just like. I mean, I'm getting older, so it's just like I can wait. I mean, yeah, I want to see it, but I don't need to go see that in the theater. Especially since you go. I mean, I can imagine you go to a Pixar movie and it's all kids.
Oh yeah. And I mean, you've been to the theater that I live near, John, and it's like
Orleans?
Pandemonium. No.
Oh, down there.
Yeah, my place here, and it's like pandemonium. It's just like, especially in the summer, it's even worse.
Just go at a late hour and you won't get any kids.
No, there's high school kids, because all the
okay.
They all get to hang out there.
Summer, yeah.
It's pandemonium there. It's out of this world. Number two is another family film, Madagascar 3: Europe's Most Wanted, with $19 million.
Yep.
Number three was Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter at 16.3. It's a rated R movie,
it's
so
out already. Doggone it! I wanted to go see that.
yeah, I mean it's a rated R movie, so you'll never hit the kids. So
yeah, I'll definitely get a babysitter and say, husband, let's go.
Number four is Prometheus with $9.9 million.
Sweet.
It might actually, maybe not. Well, it's only made $108 million so far, and it's budgeted at $130. So
It'll pass that.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while. It'll make it.
It's not. They're not going to take it out of theaters in less than a month. So
That's true. Number five, Snow White and the Huntsman, Rock of Ages, That's My Boy, Marvel's The Avengers.
Still on the
8.
top 10. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and MIB3 is now below it. The Avengers is projected to make $600 million domestically today.
right
It's
today.
across the $600 million mark. So that makes it continues to be number 3 domestically, number 4 internationally, and number 3 globally in terms of worldwide box office. And but the film hasn't even opened in Japan yet, which is in August, which means it's going to make even more cash.
Seriously? Avengers has not even opened in Japan yet?
Nope, not yet. Which is kind of surprising. I'm actually kind of surprised.
Yeah, you think? I mean, it's been out for 2 months now.
Yeah. Kind of.
Wow.
You think? I don't understand that. Why can't they release a movie the same day everywhere? Especially with the technology we have now, you'd think that instead of having a release date for this country this day, a release date for this country that day, a release date for this country that day, why not just say you're getting your copy in FedEx or whatever, and you can't show it until May the 8th, or whatever day it is.
I think they did that for the Hunger Games, which would make sense if they only released it in the U.S. on that day, because it would have been like the world is watching, but only the U.S. is watching that day, or something like that. I don't know why they do that. I think it has something to do with release schedules or something, or because they released it. There are other movies that they would do that, worldwide. So who knows? Let's see. Oh yeah, number 9 is MIB3, and then number 10 is Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, which I actually want to go see. All right, so let's see.
I do want to see that. Seeking Your Friend for the End of the World.
Yeah.
What is that one about? Just out of curiosity. This is the first time I've even heard anything about it.
So Steve Carell is playing Steve Carell, and the world is going to be destroyed by an asteroid, and there's nothing they can do. So he goes on like a cross country trip with the girl from Pirates, Keira Knightley, to find his first girlfriend, I guess.
His high school sweetheart or something like that. And what happens between the two of them is what you would expect to happen.
Yeah. It's probably pretty predictable, yeah.
Yeah. But it just seems like one of those offbeat movies that is just like, oh, that's interesting. New in theaters this week will be Magic Mike, People Like Us. People Like Us, which I think is, I have no idea.
People Like Us is if it was released in December, it would be a Oscar contender. It's basically this guy's father dies, and he finds out that he has a stepsister or half-sister, so he goes out to look for her.
Oh, wow, there's a lot of people in this. There's Chris Pine, Olivia Wilde, Elizabeth Banks, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of those. That's kind of weird that there's so many movies that they've been doing that lately, putting them out in the summer when they could essentially be like those films that would draw a lot of people in the winter. It's kind of surprising, but okay. Number 3, not number 3, but the third movie to come out this weekend. It's kind of packed this weekend. Will be Ted, which is the Seth MacFarlane movie with Mark Wahlberg and his childhood bear, which actually looks kind of funny.
Yeah.
And Tyler Perry's Medea's Witness. That's a lot of
witness protection.
That's a lot of
witness protection.
Yeah.
There's a lot of possessive going on
right there.
And
it's
probably going to be terrible.
I have to assume this is going to be the last Medea movie.
That's what you think. That's what you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what you think. If they can make 2 more and get lots of money for it, hey, they'll keep making them, man.
That's what you wish would happen.
It's not. I just.
It's okay.
Oh,
I
no.
don't see this movie making money for target audiences. It's not white people, but this one has white people in it.
It hasn't been screened to critics, so it can't be very good.
You're proving my point.
Because all the other ones already have reviews. There's no consensus yet, but they're all doing pretty good. And apparently Magic Mike is okay, so 80%.
Yeah. So I did some research on why films are released on different dates in different countries. In case you're wondering, it has, as far as I can see, it has to do with promotional duties of the actors in the movie. So they can't be in multiple places at the same time.
Wow.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
They go to this. Obviously, they do everything in this country first, and then they'll go to
Makes sense.
England and Russia or wherever and do all the promotional stuff there.
That's true. Yeah, they do like world premieres and then United States premieres, and then they do like European premiere or whatever. Okay, that makes sense. That's when teleportation exists. That's when everything will be released worldwide together.
We're just streaming on the internet.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the excuse for Japan at this point? They're probably, gotten knockoff copies by now.
I guarantee they've got leaked copies.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what the reasoning is. Maybe it just has something to do with like the filmmakers and things like that, and just everybody being busy. Because there are definitely a lot of people in that movie that have other movies this year. So,
that's very true. That's very true.
Chris Hemsworth is in like 6 movies this summer, or something like that. Not 3 at least.
Downstar, yeah, 3 movies.
Yeah. All right, so on to a couple quick movie bits. DreamWorks wants its own Fast and the Furious movie, and so they bought Need for Speed rights, the movie rights. The brothers George and John Gatins developed the original story.
Gatins, yeah.
And George will be writing the screenplay and is set for an early 2014 release with the Scott Wall, who directed Art of Valor.
Why would
Act
they need
or art? Act of Valor or art? I said
Act of
art.
Valor.
Act of Valor.
Yeah. Sorry.
Why would they need to put out the money to buy the Need for Speed rights when they could just make any racing movie about anything?
I think you're asking
Because
a very
that's
loaded
essentially. I mean,
question here.
there's no story with Need for Speed. It's just a racing game. Right?
It's true.
So just make a racing movie and call it anything. But now it's just going to be a racing movie, and they had to pay $1 zillion to call it Need for Speed.
Well, in this article, in the article that we're linking to here at Deadline, they say essentially, Need for Speed is one of EA's best-selling video game franchises, and since its first title, the series has sold more than 140 million copies worldwide and generated $4 billion in revenue. So I think they're paying for.
They're buying into like the franchise.
They're
basically.
buying for the name, yeah.
But there's no
the
guarantee.
name that's already attached with it, the reputation that goes with it.
Well, there's no guarantee that people who are a fan of the game are going to look at that movie and say, yes, that's a movie that I want to see.
Well, I mean,
They're gambling
there are worse things.
in a very expensive way.
They're gambling, but they've already put down the money. So, yeah. I mean, they could gamble and make a little bit of money, or they can gamble and lose a whole lot of money.
I mean, there are worse things, like...
That's the art of gambling.
Trucks, you know? Like,
What's that?
There are worse franchises you could slap the name onto, like, like
I know.
Trucks or something.
Like Battleship.
Yeah, or Battleship, or Ouija.
Hey, you guys dogging on Battleship? Battleship wasn't that bad, actually.
No,
it had nothing to do with the game.
Right.
True, but it had a
they had to pay all this money.
Characters that I cared about.
And that's the point. They put all this money out to I don't know how much money they had to pay for Battleship, but they paid all the money out, and it didn't make back the money that went into making the movie. So essentially, you made the movie that you wanted to make, but it doesn't have anything to do with the name Battleship. So why would they pay the money to have the name Battleship if they veered so far away from that?
Because they had a good marketing campaign and tried to sell it to everybody, and some people actually went and go see it. I don't know.
Because Hasbro just gave them the name for free. That's what happened.
Yeah, because Hasbro just said, "Hey, pay us this much money, and we'll let you play. We'll let you do something with Battleship, which is something that we own."
Yeah, exactly.
No.
We make money. Look at Transformers. Woohoo! Sorry.
The people but Transformers is an already established franchise.
True.
The people who are going to go see Battleship in the theaters were already going to go see Battleship in the theaters regardless. I don't think that people were like, "Oh, it's Battleship. I love that game. I can't wait to see this movie."
But
you know what I mean?
If you had Battleship growing up as a kid.
But it works for Need for Speed too. It's like, oh, I love that game. The game was awesome.
I like the game too, but there's no way I'm going to see it because I hate Fast and the Furious.
Aw.
I don't hate it. I
like the first movie. I like the first two movies. Which one had what's his bucket? Guy with the bald head. What is his name again?
Vin Diesel was in 1, 2, and 4.
And 5.
Yeah, I went to go see it for Vin. That was all I cared about.
And 5 when they make 5.
Yeah.
They made it up.
Huh?
Because Vin Diesel is awesome.
Oh yeah, that's right. They already make 5.
Yeah.
What was the 4th one about?
No.
We don't even know what the 4th one was about. Oh gosh.
No, it was Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious.
Right.
Tokyo Drift.
Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift.
And then it was Fast and Furious.
Right.
And then it was Fast 5.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
And they were
The
all
fact
stupid except for
that
Tokyo
all
Drift.
together, amazing.
Yeah, Tokyo Drift was surprisingly a good movie.
That's what I heard. I never saw it, but I
2 was
my
terrible.
Is my video working, by the way?
No, it is not. Please refresh.
Okay, it's not on mine either.
2 was actually terrible because they CGI'd the cars to do stunts, which is dumb.
So horrible.
But anyway, moving along, this devolved into a Fast and the Furious.
This is good though.
So Spider-Man, which is not surprising, will be opening over the July 4th weekend on July 3rd. Is set to make $125 million over the July 4th holiday. So the pre-release for the 6 days will be 125 million or more, and apparently publicity is really good. Males and females are liking it, like males and then young females, and then the older the women get, the less interested they are.
Oh
Which is
wow.
not surprising because
Wait, say that again?
so here, according to
what
Yeah.
was it? Studies or whatnot.
yeah, according to Hollywood Reporter, there's a couple of analysts or pre-tracking people that say internet also is good among females under the age of 25, thanks to the popularity of two lead actors, which is Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. There's somewhat less interest among older females, which is not surprising.
Dennis Leary's not doing it for them anymore?
Andrew Garfield doesn't do it for older women, I guess.
Dennis Leary.
Dennis
Oh, yeah,
Leary.
Dennis Leary. I don't know, maybe because I'm in the wrong demographic, but I never thought of Dennis Leary as a sex symbol.
I think he can be
Silence.
funny, but when he gets really potty mouth, I kind of don't want to listen to it.
Right. Exactly.
He crosses lines. When he gets up, when he's playing on this side of the line, it's okay. But when he gets really over the line, it's like, okay, all right, that's too much for me.
He's definitely not
Too
gonna
much
play.
Dennis Leary.
He's definitely not going to play over the line
Yeah.
in Spider-Man for sure. On to television, two broke girls have already gotten syndication rights,
Ah, okay.
and will
After
be,
one year, after one season.
one season, 23 episodes. It will debut in 2015, which by then it'll have 4 seasons under its belt. And so essentially CBS was like, or the production company, essentially like, yeah, we think the show will last for 4 years. And given its ratings, it probably will. So, not surprising.
It probably will. But that's a pretty big gamble. Assuming, I mean, the show's only gotten was only guaranteed for a second season,
Mm.
and no matter what, that money is gone.
Yeah. I mean,
If it doesn't make it to 4 seasons, TBS doesn't get it in syndication, and
they
they don't get
probably,
that money back.
I mean, they probably didn't pay all of it. They just probably put in a little down payment or something.
I know, but
At least you would think. Yeah, that's
companies
that
are
is
in the
kind of
business to make money, so they don't want to give away money for free.
Right. That
Very true.
Seems like they're very interested in the show. It seems like if they are definitely believe that it's going to be a hit. So
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be jumping on the CBS bandwagon with their, some of their syndicated shows anyway.
yeah,
I mean,
apparently,
they run 6 hours of Big Bang Theory.
yeah, it's like ridiculous, like 6
The whole
or
season
7
in a week.
hours. Yeah, essentially, that's exactly what they do, and then they just, I mean, if I had TBS, I would probably sit down and be like, oh, I remember this episode, I'll watch it. So it works.
I'm at the point where I've seen this episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Big Bang Theory like consistently leads like reruns and stuff. So
Yeah. How does that work with syndication? I mean, does each channel put in money to the pot,
I think so. Yeah,
and then as long as you put your money in, you can play the syndicated episodes?
I think so. I think it's similar to like buying movies and stuff, putting movies into airing movies and stuff on television. But I
Just
think
because, I mean, there's shows that that are on, like, why wouldn't TBS get How I Met Your Mother? You know what I mean? But it's got The Big Bang Theory, and obviously it's going to get Two Broke Girls.
I think they already do. Maybe.
Not here.
Maybe. Well, I mean, TBS is only one TBS, so probably.
Yeah.
Probably because somebody else already snatched it up prior.
I mean,
They
it's
probably
on-
made an exclusive deal or something.
It's on MyPHL, which doesn't exist anywhere but here, I think.
It's My Network TV.
Oh, okay.
It exists
Um,
throughout the country. Yeah.
it's on that, and it's on FX, and it's on something else. Maybe CW.
Okay. Well,
Maybe, I don't know.
my
It's just
network
weird
and
that
My- my network and FX makes sense because they're both owned by Fox.
Oh, really?
News Corp. Yeah, they're both owned by News Corp. So that's why. So that makes sense. CW, probably they just bought it on their own or something. Or actually, CW is a joint.
CBS.
It's joint between CBS and Paramount, so
Hmm.
that's not considered. I guess that's not technically not considered off network, so they
Right.
just kind of push it off to them.
This week's topic is
in the continuation of a couple weeks back. You guys saw Prometheus, and I finally saw Prometheus, so that was always fun. And so now we can spoil the living crap out of it.
Well, yeah, since it's been out long enough, we can, any listeners listening, we can. If you haven't seen it, you better just turn it off because we're gonna spoil it. Yay.
Yeah. I'm gonna sound the alarm.
Wow, wow, wow. There you go.
All right, so I guess I can say that I thought it was a really good movie. I didn't have a chance to see Alien beforehand, but I did decide after I saw the movie. I read a lot of the there's a couple of fan wikis and stuff, so I read a lot and it kind of helped fill in some gaps. And I thought it was. I remember you were saying, John, that the person that you went with, he said that if it weren't a semi-prequel to Alien, it wouldn't have been that good of a movie.
Right.
But
I don't trust his judgment with a lot of stuff. He's
I
a really good
disagree.
friend. He's a really good friend of mine, but he is the type of person that's like, I want a beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
And if it's a prequel, then it leads directly into the first movie.
Right. But I do like how they did that.
It's not. The only thing that I have to say is that I don't think it was that tied to it. I mean, I went back and watched Aliens after this, and the only thing that really seems like it ties into it is the fact that at the very end, you get an alien that kind of looks a little bit like the alien.
Yeah.
Well, there's a space jockey in the chair.
Same. I mean, there's definitely a whole lot of nods, but it's set in the same universe pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I did like that they went, and did the universe thing. I thought that was pretty cool, where it was where they didn't reset the timeline like they did in Star Trek, where they just kind of oh, this is a separate mission, and they just kind of whatever, they kind of branched off, and they're running they're just running a parallel timeline, so that's really cool. I thought it was kind of crazy. It was really cool to see, the space jockeys and stuff and the way they interacted, and that was the way they were exploring that spaceship. It was really cool. I think they it definitely felt
they spent more time. It feels like they spent more time exploring the spaceship than they did in Alien.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that was gross. The head exploded and everything, and then she gave birth to that little alien. That was, oh man. Oh.
Yeah.
There are
the
things.
C-section thing.
Yeah. Oh man.
This is what happens when you leave the pieces behind without finding out did you destroy it? Did you? No, she just left it there. I was like, aw,
well,
surprise!
she used the decontamination in hopes that it would kill it.
Yeah, right. Well, then she didn't make sure.
Well, she was.
Hello, are you stupid?
She just had a C-section. I think she had other things to worry
still,
about.
It was just like, oh my god.
She's also super Catholic, so it's not like she can just kill something that she just technically gave birth to.
Ugh.
That was not human. I'm sorry.
But there was a little, there's a lot of discussion about that, how when she found out that there was something inside of her, instead of saying, I need to kill this thing inside of me, she said, I need to have a C-section.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, I need to kill it, it was, I need to get it out of me.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, kill it while it's still alive. But there was I read a lot of discussions on the internet about the movie, and I actually like how there were things that were pretty open-ended. There's a lot of discussion as to why David poisoned, for lack of a better term, Holloway, and what happens after the movie ends. There's a lot of discussion towards those two things, and was what's her face an android? Even though I don't think that anyone really thinks that she is.
Who, Charlize Theron?
Shaw?
Yeah, Charlize Theron, yeah.
No.
Oh, her. No.
She definitely wasn't, because she was sleeping.
Right, but then, there was the argument, I read, that's, one of the things that I read was somebody said that, obviously David said to Shaw, androids do things that are similar to humans, so the humans don't get freaked out.
Well,
so
she
there
got
was
squished anyways, right?
right, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have any bearing on towards the end of the movie.
Probably
anyway.
not, because I think that the captain would have found out.
Right. Yeah. And that's what my argument is. As obviously he went to have sex with her. So
Not if they're supposed to be, never mind.
all the way human.
Yeah.
They're supposed to look like humans, you never
Right,
know.
Yeah.
They're fully functional.
Never show the androids undressed on the alien movie, so you don't really
true.
know what's going on downstairs.
That's true. They could be a Barbie doll.
Yeah.
But they could not.
Barbie doll. I'm a Barbie doll. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I like that it was pretty open ended. You can make your own distinction as to what happens after the movie, or why this character did this or whatever. And I think that leads to like back in the day, there was movies where it was like you had to kind of infer things for yourself and actually think about the movies.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't like everything. Nowadays, you go to a movie and everything's like blatantly said to you, and you're like, sometimes you might not even notice it, but other times I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't really need to be told that that's what's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So the open-ended thing, you liked that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Left it open-ended so you can make your own conclusions, and I like that too. It was like they really treated the audience as if, like, you know what, you can take that any way that you want.
Yeah.
Exactly. Audience like to have some brains. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't like it when they make movies where you have to,
Yeah, like I
wait,
mean,
come on, I didn't need to know that again.
one of the main things was like, it's like, oh, okay, so essentially, like, she knows that he had something to do with Holloway, that David had something to do with Holloway, because he gave her that look, right? So she knows that he had something to do with him, but they both essentially, like, he didn't really care too much about her up until he had his head ripped off, and he was like, now I rely on her to get out of it.
Yeah, because now he's got a reason to.
Well, he did and he didn't. I mean, in the beginning of the movie, but when they first get back to the spaceship and the sulfur storm is coming, and she drops the head and she goes out to get it, and obviously Holloway goes out to get her also, but David ultimately saves them both.
Right, which was actually kind of funny. I thought that was a really funny scene where
he brings them back inside and he's like, "Are you okay?" And where Holloway's reaction was, "What are you? What are you, stupid? You running out there? You could get killed." And David is like, "Are you all right?" So I think obviously he had some kind of care for her, but his mission to find a cure for his father, overrid that. Yeah. Where it was like, okay, I care for this person, but I need to make sure that I do what I'm programmed to do.
Yeah.
But towards the end, obviously he has to depend. He's totally dependent on a human now, where he didn't want to be dependent.
Right. He wanted to be free.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is
well,
interesting.
I also thought he very calculating the way that he ran things and how things ended up being, because I thought, he's meant to, I think part of that, I mean, the way I took it is that he's an android. Yes, he's saving these people because they're, part of the mission, project managers basically, and he has a motivation to save them for whatever reason, but eventually he ends up using them in different ways, and obviously he infects one of the guys, and she ends up getting weird stuff implanted in her, and he's like, oh, we're gonna put you in stasis and take you home and blah blah blah.
Right.
Like, that was. He's very cold and calculating in a lot of things, and in the end, when I don't think that he predicted the outcome that he did. And then, like I said, he gets to the point where, now he has no head and he's an android and he's, in pieces. And of course, then he's going to be nice to her, because now he's got a motivation to be nice to her, because he can't go anywhere. He's going to just sit there and run until he's dead, or I don't know. But It made complete sense to me. There were some people that said they didn't really like it, and I was like, well, I liked that. I thought he had a motivation. He had an absolute motivation, and I think in some ways too, like when the guy that created him died, I mean, that almost freed him from having to worry about any of those motivations anymore, because now, hey, his whole purpose for being there. Well, that turned out the way it did. Yeah, now what am I going to do? I'm going to follow the human.
Right.
She's resilient. She had this thing happen to her, and wow, I did not expect her to be still here, but she's still here.
Yeah, she killed that. She had a hand in killing that 9-foot giant, right? That was kind of crazy.
Yeah,
and
that
I think
too.
the fact that Charlize Theron's character was pretty cold and calculating leads to people thinking that maybe she was an android. And there's a lot of things where it's like, oh, she's clearly the villain because she doesn't, whatever. She's cold and she cares about her own safety and this and that. But like, if you think about it, she's the only person who does things by the book. Everyone goes in bio-containment before they come back on the ship. Oh, you're infected. I'm not letting you back on the ship, or I'm going to kill you.
Right.
So she did everything right, except for not be able to run in the proper direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not in the same direction as something that's rolling.
Right.
Yes.
We were like,
yes.
And then
oh.
and then somehow Shaw was able to roll 2 cycles and then rolled on the other side of the roll. It's like you could have just ran 2 steps this way or just 1 giant leap and you would have been safe. But
you just run you run toward the thing off to the side.
Yeah, you run
that
diagonal.
Yeah.
Like why are you going this way?
See, this is why I say Charlize Theron was human, is because she made a dumb mistake.
Yeah, because she was stupid.
If she was a robot, she'd still be alive, man.
That's true. She made a stupid mistake. You're right.
Speaking of stupid mistakes,
David made a mistake too, but it was a different kind of mistake, and yeah, you can predict that.
There are things in a movie that, due to my profession, I didn't agree with. They got on the planet and they were like, everyone has to wear these suits because there's 3% carbon dioxide in the air. That is totally harmless. You don't need a containment suit to walk around in 3% carbon dioxide.
Whoops.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't make any sense.
It sounded really cool.
Right, yeah, and all the that's such a little thing where you just do a little research and you say it's 50% carbon dioxide.
Or just say 100%. I mean, just say, just make something ridiculous,
Or just say something like the contents of this planet's atmosphere are mostly unknown.
Right.
That would have made it perfect, yeah.
Pull a Mass Effect.
And it's like a little thing like that, and then
Mass Effect.
Right. What was the other thing? Oh, the 2 main characters, Shaw and Holloway. Well, Holloway mostly. They're supposed to be not scientists. They're archaeologists or something.
They're archaeologists.
And he's on an alien planet, and he goes into a containment area where there's water dripping down, and his first reaction was to take off his helmet. Like you don't have to be a genius to know to not take off your helmet. I mean, even though it was totally harmless and everyone was fine.
He's a risk taker.
Yeah, it's so your head could explode immediately. Like, and then what?
But he said that the carbon was gone. It was now 1% carbon
3%,
or 1 piece.
Yeah, that 3% carbon really wasn't that harmless anyhow.
Yeah.
Right. No, I know. But it's just so stupid. Like, assuming that the conditions of the planet were harmful, you would never take off your containment suit.
I think what it was is he is more like logical.
He was very excited and he wanted to move forward with this thing. So he got excited and he wanted to show that they were very human-like. So he took off his helmet so he could breathe the air. But it's such a stupid thing to do. Like, you're in lab and you have your glasses on. I was in 7.5 different biolabs all through college, and it's like you keep your PPE on at all times, no matter what, until you're done and everything's put away.
All right.
So it's like so stupid to immediately take off your helmet on an alien planet. And then the other thing was And a little stupid switch that they could have made was the other two guys. One was a geologist, one was a biologist.
That was a badass geologist.
Right.
He was like, I love rocks. I was like, really?
Geologist
It's very
sees
hardcore.
Yeah.
what looks similar to a king cobra snake
Yeah.
that is very angry.
Yeah,
And
that
he
thing
re-
obviously does not look good.
Yeah.
He reaches his
Idiot.
hands out to grab it.
It's like,
Now-
oh, I'm gonna pet it. It's okay. I was like, yeah, right. You know this is gonna not good.
Obviously, it was important to show some horror and show what that the things were badass and they shouldn't be messed with. The easiest thing they could have done was just have the geologist do it.
Right.
Have the geologist reach out towards the snake thing, and then the biologist in there saying, no, don't do that, don't do that. It's
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
they got it seemed like they just got that mixed up and they just went with it anyway.
It's like, hey, look, here's an unknown entity. Let's
Just the
touch
thing
it.
that was kind of weird too is the fact that they were all freaked out to be there to begin with, and then he's like, "Oh, look, it's harmless. It's not gonna hurt me."
Oh yeah, that's true. They
So
Yeah.
at first they were afraid, and then all of a sudden they see something. Oh, look, it's a strange life form that I've
Right.
never seen before.
They-
Oh, I want to touch it. I was like, you know what, idiot? I would be like,
yeah.
no,
I get
let's
the
back away.
excitement.
And then he finds that there are 15 other ones behind him going, oh no! You know, that would have worked better. But, you know, the fact that he wanted to touch the darn thing, I was like, are you an idiot? What have
get
you
the
been smoking?
I get the excitement in that. Like, you're a scientist and you find what is essentially a brand new species. You're famous in the world of science, anyway.
If you get back in one piece.
Yeah, but the first
So
thing is
I
not to
get the
touch it.
excitement, but it's just like you got to be smarter.
Yeah, the first thing is not to touch it. But so they freaked out and ran when they saw the giant dead decapitated body.
Right.
Then they saw the pile of giant decapitated dead bodies. And then they go back into the same chamber with the giant decapitated dead body and say, "Hey, look, here's this thing. Let's touch it."
Yeah.
The other thing I didn't understand is, they're obviously freaked out about being alone in this big thing with a sandstorm outside. Can't go anywhere. And then the captain of the ship goes, "Hey, there's something living in there. I gotta go away now." Like, clearly you're a sane individual. You saved the day at the end of the movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, I don't understand his motivation. I mean, obviously, I get his motivation. He wanted to have sex. But, like, just say, hey, stay away from there. Hey, you guy over here, watch this screen and make sure that they're all right.
Yeah. Right. That was
So
yeah,
just,
that was-
just little things that it's just like, obviously move the plot of the movie along, but it's just little things that get to me where it's like, you're smarter than that.
right.
If I'm smart enough to realize that, then you're smart enough to realize that.
Right. Well, sometimes it's just plot convenience.
Yeah.
Although I am convinced that they made that suit just for Charlize Theron. Because she was in that suit the most, and they definitely like did these weird like camera angles, and it was like
yeah.
really, really Scott. Like what the hell?
Her uniform thing where it was like all kind of designy and all that on her. Yeah.
Mm.
Is that the one we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. It definitely was custom for her.
Yeah, exactly.
And how shocked was everybody that Waylon was still alive?
I did not see that coming. I thought
I actually thought that was Holloway. I didn't expect him to be the like spider guy. That was just weird.
No. Waylon was the old guy.
Waylon
Oh
was the
no!
old guy. Yeah, the old guy at the end. Dad
Once-
was there. Good old Dad.
Yeah. Once
Yeah.
I saw him talking about the cryo chamber, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Then it made sense. Like,
Right.
It wasn't a shocker. More, it was just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He's alive. Like why?
Yeah,
wouldn't
well, yeah, there's that too. I think it made sense afterwards, but I didn't see it coming. And so when it happened, I thought, oh. And then I picked on it almost immediately the minute that Charlize came to visit him. Oh, it's his daughter. I was like, oh man, that's so twisted. That is so
Yeah.
twisted.
Especially what he was
It
saying
made me
at the
feel
beginning of the
bad
movie,
because
was
it's like, he treats both his created creations and his own children the same way, very cold and calculating. It just like it built the character really well in that sense, because I thought they didn't have to explain it to me for me to figure out what was going on.
Right.
When she finally said father, I was like, oh gosh, wow, It's so twisted. This whole family is screwing with the whole world and the universe. Ah!
I felt
Dysfunctional.
Like he treated David better than he treated her, because obviously he would, like, during the opening sequence when they're in the, when everyone wakes up, he's like, David's the closest I could have to a son.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not even a real thing.
He always wanted a son and not a daughter.
Which explains why she looked so pissed.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's why she looked so pissed.
Yeah.
Because he didn't even say, this is my daughter, or whatever. He was just like,
right.
He didn't even say anything about her, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like that it's sort of open, it's sort of not open. So they left it open enough that, hey, she could potentially, she could find more. Who knows? If she doesn't,
But she want to is the whole point. I was like, are you insane, woman? Look what you just, found out. And then there's the whole idea of why did they create the human race? Because I've heard a lot of people discuss and talk about how that happened. Were we a mistake? Were we intentional? That type of thing.
Why I heard. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I heard that the one that makes the most sense to me was that there is two groups of engineers, is what they were calling in the movie, right? Engineers?
Yep.
Engineers, yeah.
There was a group of engineers that created the humans, and the group of engineers that were creating the weapons.
Oh, okay.
So, but why would the engineers that created the weapons want to use them on something that they created? As like a test bed?
They didn't create them. The other engineers created them.
I know, but why would they? But you would think that they would be one society at one point or something, right?
Maybe they broke off or something?
There was an article that I read, and it smacked of a lot of religious things. Basically, the one thing, to wrap it up as quickly as I possibly can, they said that the last time they had visited the Earth, which is not true because they showed the stone, the age of the stones that they had found, was 2,000 years ago, or when they died was 2,000 years ago, when they were going to bring the bioweapons to Earth.
Right.
And that happens to sync up with the time when Jesus was crucified.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I had read was, they had sent someone down to Earth around the year 0, and everyone was like, oh, this is our God, whatever, this is our deity, this is, whatever, and everyone worshipped him, and then they saw that the humans crucified him, and it pissed them off.
This was actually based on an interview that they actually interviewed Ridley Scott. And he said, and they were like, could it be potentially possible that Jesus himself was an alien? And he kind of hinted, he's like, yeah, kind of, like, he's like, that's what makes the most sense, doesn't it? And he's like, based on this world, he's like, that's what makes most sense. Like, they were fighting they created them, then they started warring, and the Romans, and they were like pillaging and killing and essentially ruling like gods on their own, right? And then they sent, and then they were like, well, once the Romans began to fall, which is craziness in its own, but they were like, once they fell, and it was like, all right, well, let's try to bring peace and restore order back to the world and send Jesus. And then Jesus came, and then guess what happened? They killed him. And they were like, well, that's it. We're just going to start creating these aliens, or we found these aliens, or whether or not they created.
No, they created the weapon, if they created it, or I don't know if they found it. Right. But they didn't.
See, my take on it was completely different than that.
Yeah, I mean, what was in the containers, it could have done anything to. They didn't know. I don't think they really knew what it was going to do. Obviously, the aliens, if you've watched enough of the alien movies, they take on some form of whatever host they grow up inside of.
Right, which is why that one at the end looked like that, because he took,
Right. So, I mean, I don't think that they had really any idea that there was going to be the
Wait a minute.
alien.
Aliens that they grow up and they look like some of the people that are in them. I was like, well, how? I don't because like the aliens, they looked pretty distinct. You get the the thing that gets on your face and the little guy that comes out, and that's the alien. He don't look nothing. He don't look human at all.
No, not human. I mean, obviously they look like aliens, but
Yeah.
For instance, in Alien 3, there was an alien that was gestating inside of a dog, and when it popped out, it ran around on all 4 legs instead of running around on 2 legs, and it was kind of shorter.
There were some genetic changes to it.
Yeah, and not that these count in this mythology, but in the Alien versus Predator, there was an alien that was gestating inside of a predator. When it came out, it had dreadlocks and it had the fangs or whatever.
And then the one that it makes a lot of sense when you saw the space jockeys once they had like those suits, and you saw them, and then when that one it makes a lot of sense because that was essentially the first one, right?
Right.
That was born, and it took and then if you remember from later, like what the aliens looked like, it had the same sort of design as their suits did. Had that kind of that design, the black color and the way it overlaps and stuff like that.
We're talking about the guy that got flamed, right?
No, the space jockey when he ate him at the end, when he impregnated him at the end, like the giant 9-foot guy.
The big face hugger.
You're talking about the big one that once it got on him, and then it's it solidified and stopped, and then
And then at the end he busted out.
Yeah.
And then he became.
I thought it was kind of poetic that the alien is part of it has human DNA in it because it was inside her. I thought, oh gosh, it's so twisted.
Yeah.
And I also thought at the same time it was kind of brilliant too because I thought, okay, that's a new take on something that we already had established, but yet at the same time it's like, oh my gosh, this came out of a human being.
Right. Yeah.
It's half human. Oh my heck. No, my whole take on the how the engineers and stuff like that, because I didn't read any of that. The way I took away with that is the fact that they seeded pretty much the whole planet, and I thought, okay, well that makes sense. But then, the fact that they all, when you get to the planet and David activates something in the ship or whatever that they're in, and they see the image of all these people running, I kind of thought, well, was there some sort of breakout? If they were experimenting, how did everybody die? Because all those guys died, and it doesn't ever explain how that happened. Right. And at that point, I'm like, okay, well, it wasn't the aliens, because you get to the end and you find out that's when the alien kind of thing is created. But then you're like, okay, well, if they were engineering weapons, and they wanted a race of beings to test them on, the way I looked at it is that they seeded different planets so they would have a race of some sort of beings that they could come and use their weapons on and find out what weapon they wanted to use or whatnot based on that. And I thought, okay, that makes sense too, that it's they seeded the human race. They look somewhat like them, but they're a lesser version of, humans would be a lesser version of them, in a way that they could use these weapons of mass destruction on different places to see how creatures and whatnot would react, and then if they had to, they'd just blow up the planet afterwards to destroy the weapon that they made if they didn't want to, they didn't get the results they wanted or whatnot. Because that's what I was taking, is how would the if all of that stuff seeded, how would they go from that far along to be able to go, oh yeah, we need to go back and destroy Earth now? It just doesn't, that didn't connect to me. If they knew about it, if they were two different, versions, if they were had the good engineers and the bad engineers, and the good engineers made the planet, and the bad engineers, were just creating weapons or whatnot, and decided, hey, we found out that these good guys made this nice planet, so let's go blow it up.
Yeah.
I think the assumption is that ours is not the only populated planet out there that they've been to.
Yeah, and that was definitely an assumption that was definitely put out there, is that once you started making the connection that they were making things, you're like, oh, well, if they made the human race because they find that they're human, that we're related to them, then you wonder, well, how many other planets have they seeded based on that? So that's why I was thinking, well, in that case, what would the logical thing be? Because if they're going to make weapons, because that's clearly kind of what the the path that they were going to go down in the movie is that they were making weapons, and that something happened and everybody died there, and one guy got out alive. So is he,
Right.
you know, at the very end when they wake the guy up and all he wants to do is kill everything, it's just like, okay,
He's essentially
yeah, this is an
continuing his
experiment that gone, an experiment that gone horribly wrong, or what? I don't know, because they
Well,
left it open-ended. But
the question that I would have is if they had created these biological weapons to test on humans, then what are they using them against? You know, like, what are they scared of?
So
You know?
yeah. Another thing I also was reading was that it was probably engineers versus engineers.
Mm.
So
Oh, really?
there's like, you know, it makes sense what you're saying. There's like one type that, I mean, they essentially, because, you know, their DNA is human, you would kind of assume that they're similar to the humans, like human
Right,
being
fighting
wise.
each other, yeah.
So they essentially fought each other. They were just galactic fighters, and they went around fighting each other. And it was also like,
well, that would also support the lesser version of themselves. Humans are like a lesser version of themselves. So if they're making a weapon that will, you know, have reactions or whatnot to, you know, a lesser version of themselves, then we can use it on the real version and get the results that we want. So
Right,
that's kind of,
and it was obviously like, though, you know, because that one crazy mutant one at the end was able to overpower a 9-foot giant, right? And it's kind of like surprising. So, and then there was also like an alien where they found the space jockey with a hole in his chest, and whether or not those, you know, that guy was transporting it to drop it on Earth or drop it on another planet, or just be transporting it somewhere, nobody really knows. They never really answered that, right? So.
That's true. Are you talking about the one that actually was in Alien, the movie?
Yeah, the one that they actually found. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he looks similar to the person that they showed in Prometheus as well. Just that
The scale of the body is a lot different.
This is another thing that I thought was pretty interesting, because you think about it, you go back to the when they actually got there, those mounds that they had everything in that they went down into, there were several of them. They were supposedly were talking about how they were terraforming the planet. It's like, so when you leave, you're like, okay, she left. What about all those other mounds? Are there other ships? Are there other places that, like, other, like, stations, if you were? And I thought, well, if they left an alien there alive, maybe this new alien came and found things and found somebody that was still alive and infected them, and that's, you know, I don't know. That's what I was thinking, is, well, maybe that's how they got off the planet, is that they're intelligent enough to control their host, whatnot, at first or something. Obviously, as they continue to, as you said, they take on genetic attributes of their hosts at times. So I was like, oh wow, that's.
Yeah, I mean, David
I don't know.
mentioned that there are multiple ships, and that there are multiple of those mounds. So it kind of makes a lot of sense that was.
And the only reason why that one was going to go toward Earth is because they woke it up. They woke it up.
They woke 'em up.
Right.
And you know.
Well, I guess that begs the question of what. I mean, number one, what did David say to the engineer when he woke up?
Yeah.
Right.
And number two,
Did he say something wrong? Like, screw you. Like, he pissed him
Right,
off.
like,
Like, I gotta kill your brace.
or please kill this old guy next to me, like,
Right.
so I can be free. But maybe the engineer was like, if you look at it as like a hierarchy, engineers created humans, humans created androids, and the engineer was like, this creature is talking to me,
Right.
and he like flipped out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
And then the other one is, you know, what killed the other engineers? They never really explained that either.
Yeah.
What you could.
That's why I said, this is why I said I thought it was something where they were making weapons of some sort of destructive force, and for some reason it got loose, and it killed everybody there, and maybe even other, you know, the other places. And so those that ran, as they were running, because you never did find out, like you saw like I said, the images that they were watching, there was a group of them that ran into the room, and then you never found out what happened to them. They supposedly hinted that was, that they that they died or whatnot.
Right, and yeah, you're right. It could. I mean,
That he went into the room and he went to the very end of it and he was looking at stuff up on the wall and all that, and it looked like there might have been another door, and he says this place is a tomb. And so I thought maybe that's what they were inferring, that the other people ran into that room. They never came out. They died in there wherever they are, on maybe other doors or whatnot. And I thought, well, maybe it is that when the outbreak happened, those that could get into like a stasis thing, they were kept from dying or whatever, and that's why that one was still alive inside that stasis thingy. So
yeah, and it could potentially be those weren't the first. That wasn't the first alien that came out, right? It could have been the other one. You're right. The other ones could have figured it out, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna leave now. We'll see you later," and then they just took off.
Yeah.
I just assumed that there was like a like something got out, like if it was a biological warfare testing facility, that something had got out and it was like a massive like get out of here, evacuation, whatever, and that's what people were running, and I don't know.
That doesn't explain like the mound of bodies though at the end of the one corridor.
Yeah, the one corridor where they found it. Yeah.
Yeah,
and the guys got all freaked out. Oh, what's going on?
I think it's assumed that the aliens, the xenomorphs eat people.
Most likely, and they somehow got off the planet or something like that somehow.
Or they just died out because there wasn't enough food because nobody had been there for who knows how long.
2,000 years or so, right?
Yeah.
So they said, like the head was like 2,000 years, right? So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if the xenomorphs were to sustain on engineer meat, and all the engineers had left or they had been eaten,
right? Then
what are they going to live on? Nothing.
Right.
See, now my take on it was that the aliens didn't even exist until the very end.
But that's what a lot of people thought too. But behind the tomb on the wall in the first room was a sculpture of an alien.
It was the alien.
Well, maybe they were trying to create it.
But I
don't know. I think that goes back to what John was saying, that regardless of, everybody.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense, because then if you think about it, I mean, if they infect themselves with something, because remember at the very beginning of the movie where they gave that guy that cup, he drank it or whatever, and then it basically tears him apart, and that's what seeded the whole planet. Maybe that's what the whole point was, is that, they infect themselves to make it that much more stronger or whatever. And the fact that they use, in this instance, I'd say, because it was implanted in her, in a sense, it still was getting their DNA, because it was just, yeah.
I think I read an interview with either Damien Lindelof or, not Tony, what the hell's his name? Ridley Scott, that said that the black stuff that the one engineer drinks in the beginning of the movie is not the same as the ooze.
The stuff that's in later on, yeah.
So, okay.
Obviously I'd say that because it had completely different results.
Yeah.
Well, plus, it had a different. The stuff that they saw in the tomb was like slimy. It wasn't necessarily black.
Tar-like.
Yeah. It was kind of weird.
And the stuff that, like I said, when he opened up the cup and it just looked different,
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that it was the same stuff. I thought it was different. So.
Right.
Different purposes for different things. You never know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really great that like John was. It just goes back to what John was saying before, that three people watching it have three different interpretations of the movie.
Oh yeah,
that's what makes it a really good movie, because.
And like you can give each other ideas of like, oh, I never thought of that or whatever, and it's like a good movie is one that creates discussion afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, you go see, this movie or that movie, and it's just like, oh, it was good action movie, and
this is why it's good to keep things open-ended, because then people can actually discuss what they thought about it. Like, it seems like to me that more, I thought, because I've heard, you making the inferences about, him being Jesus and all that. I thought that's taking religion a little bit too far with it, because I didn't think it was that religious. I felt like there were a couple religion things in there. It was important for one of the characters because that seemed to be something that she was seeking for whatever reason. And in the end, when she's like, she doesn't give up on that 'cause she wants her, her cross and everything back. I thought, okay, yeah. But that's as far as I took religion, religious feel to it. So I thought, oh, okay, cool. Oh, and just before we close, what did you guys think about the mural thing on the wall as they opened up the tomb and they went in there, and how it started changing and corroding like while they were there?
There was
That's just natural archaeology.
Yeah. It happened really fast. I was like, wow, does it hurt?
Well, yeah.
Like that?
Usually it does. Like if there's something that's been preserved for so long because there's no air, as soon as it hits oxygen, it just boom, it just falls.
I think that I saw a picture of it, and someone had said that the mural itself was a depiction of the life cycle of the xenomorphs, because it showed a face hugger and it showed something bursting out of someone's body.
That makes sense.
So, I mean, if it's a tomb and obviously they had the xenomorph at the back, behind the head.
Yeah.
More the same.
Interesting. Cool. All right.
Well, that was a really great discussion. So I think that will do it for episode 28, and we will see you guys next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to ScreenView. ScreenView is a radio-free Cybertron production. Visit us at tfradio.net for show notes and to subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on Twitter at tfradio for news and updates. Watch our live stream at tfradio.net/live. Join our Facebook fan page at facebook.com/tfradio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, TF Radio Network. Have a question or comment? Leave it on our Facebook fan page or mail it to contact@tfradio.net. Copyright 2011, Radio Free Cybertron.